Every once in a while doing this, I'll come across a headline that is so bizarre, that is just so unbelievably insane, that I'm not exactly sure whether it's true or not, because there's so much great satire out there, right? I mean, you could look at, like, the Babylon Bee with some of their fake headlines, which are just so good, and there's so many great writers that are in social media now. But when I come across a headline, and I happen to see it first, it's all over the place this morning, but I happen to see it first on the New York Post that said, what New York Post, you got to question things too, but it said, New York State moves to replace mothers and fathers with gestating and non-gestating parents. And honest to God, the first thought I had was, no, that's okay. This is sad. Wait, it is from the Post. This is actually a real thing. This actually happened. You dig deeper into the story, and their legislature actually moved to pass this. It's a bill. It's actually sitting on Governor Kathy Hochul's desk right now. Will she sign it? I have no idea. And look, let's be honest. You and me and everybody else with half of an ounce of common sense thinks this is outrageous. But we still have a duty to mock the you-know-what out of this to make sure it doesn't. Don't ever stand for this kind of thing. And we'll get into it. Nice little Friday fun to make fun of the outrageous. Thanks for finding me. Welcome to Friday, by the way. Weekend's almost here. Welcome to Wicked Radio live stream, X, YouTube, and Facebook, and the replay there, and audio podcast listeners where you like to get those, your favorite platforms, whatever you find on your phone or your car or whatever. Thanks for finding me. Let's get into it. Here's what we're going to do. So, past the headline, let's just break it into pieces, some of the news reports. Obviously, Fox was all over this. This is like, for Fox News and The Five and their morning show, this is like right in their wheelhouse, right? So let's go to them because they had a pretty good breakdown of it when this headline broke just yesterday, and then all the reaction shows last night. So we'll take it in pieces. This first guy is who they brought on to react to this news. And we'll take it down in pieces what he says, just to make sure that this is actually real. No more mothers and fathers in New York State. It's gestating and non-gestating parents. I'm surprised they even got the parents part in there. Now, is this all part of Pride Month? I would have to assume so. I don't know. Not too sure. But the timing of this whole thing is pretty suspicious. So I think so, maybe. I don't know. Let's find out. Here's how they broke down the details. Who can describe it a lot better than I can. You and I will react to it. Here you go.
Democrats argue the words mother and father are outdated and need to be replaced with more inclusive terms under state law. All that's needed now is Governor Kathy Hochul's signature. So if Hochul approves, in New York's family court and in domestic and education law, a mother would be labeled as a gestating parent, a father as a non-gestating parent, and paternity proceedings to determine the child's father would be called parentage.
Oh, that's another element. I forgot about this. Well, I actually didn't see it yet. So you've got a mother they're going to call a gestating parent. Father, who they're trying to wipe out, obviously, are non-gestating parents. And the court proceedings will be called parentage. You have to wonder if that changes how custody laws are even changed in this. I mean, listen, it's ridiculous. It's stupid. I don't even know if it's going to be signed, but it does affect a lot of things, including what's on your forms you sign, not just in New York, but across the world, unless we mock this thing. This guy goes on. What are some of the other details?
The bill passed the state Senate this week and the state assembly back in March. Governor Hochul proudly calls herself New York's first mom governor. It's unclear if she'll support this change, though.
I'm not familiar with what was introduced late last night, so I'll take a look at it. I have until the end of the year to review them and make a decision, so I won't be commenting on pending legislation.
So far, it sounds like she's going to let this thing sit and die, right? Because it's a hot potato. Not all of New York that she governs is New York City. Not all of it is woke. You've got upstate New York and a whole bunch of districts and counties in New York State that's very red. So you didn't want to piss them off. She's a governor. They should be totally different if this was just New York City law, right? But she's the governor of the entire state. And what she said right there is, I'm not going to comment on any pending legislation. That's political talk for, I'm going to let this thing sit on my desk and die, most likely. And she said she has like 6 months, the end of the year, whatever, to let that happen. Most likely that's going to happen. But wouldn't it be interesting? What if this happens? What if there actually is some sort of big movement, if they're not too busy with the pride parades in New York? What if there's some sort of a big movement of the LGBTQ plus, add a letter, whatever it is, to force her to address this thing? What if that happens? It hasn't happened yet. The story is still new. I mean, it was strong enough, that lobby was strong enough to get the New York legislature to pass this thing, to get it to her desk. What if they force her to talk about it? Even just to forget about signing it or not signing it, to even talk about it would be a massive win for them. This guy goes on. Let's see.
New York would join other states like Massachusetts, California, Connecticut, and Colorado to change the definition and wording of parents in their state laws. Democrats argue the bill is necessary to accommodate surrogacy cases and same-sex couples. Now, Governor Hochul's up for re-election this year. Her main challenger, Republican Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman, tells Fox this morning this bill is a continuation of war declared on families by
Okay, so her main political opponent, apparently the biggest threat to her getting reelected, is that guy he just mentioned there and said it's a war on families. This is why you always see, because the left has gone so crazily far left, you see the people on the right going back to the most basic things, culture, right? Going back to American, Western, patriotic, traditional, what traditionally you'd call it culture, to go back to those whole things. That's why he's saying it's a war on the family. But is that guy wrong? Isn't it sort of a war on the family? And the legal proceedings that this sets, and it's scary because he said we always tend to think this kind of stuff, insane level of wokeness, only happens in New York or LA or Chicago or Boston or Philly or something like that, right? The deep blue cities. Oh no. It creeps in wherever people let it creep in. And that's where you and I come in. Because let's just say, and let's just pretend that this did happen to come to your city or your county. And this kind of legislation where they redefine the terms of what parents are, what humans are. This is why language matters. This is why they attack it in this kind of way. Let's say you were faced with this kind of thing. You're not even a New York City resident, New York State resident, right? Here's how it does affect you. Let's say you're going in, you're a couple, and you're going into the OBGYN's office, and you have to fill out the lengthy clip of papers and forms and waivers and all this other crap. And they put in there what you are. Identify yourself as, and instead of mother, father, it would be gestating person or non-gestating person. Here's what you and I have to do, because we all think this is stupid, obviously. You can't even tolerate it. You can't just say, oh, well, I just want to get in the appointment, so okay, I'll just put non-gestating person there just to get in so I don't cause a ruckus. No, you have to cause a ruckus. I think it's our civic duty to not put up with this crap. You really can't. You have to make a statement. Like literally, if anybody asks you that in a piece of paper to say what you are, no. You take your pen, hopefully you have a Sharpie like I do, you cross it out and you say no, and in my case it would be, I am father, and write it on there, no matter what it is. And you'll probably get to the desk, you might wind up getting some nose-ringed blue hair and who's giving you a hard time. You didn't fill out the paperwork correctly. No, I did, and I refuse to use that term. Eventually, they can't force you to call yourself something like that. They can change the term whenever they want, but you don't have to tolerate it. Because that's how this stuff even happens in the first place, where it even gets to Governor Kathy Hochul's desk. You can't tolerate this stuff. Because I'll tell you personally, if anybody ever said to my wife, the mother of my beautiful children, that she's not a mother, she's a gestating parent, I think she'd punch you right in the neck. I'd be honest if anybody ever did that, and rightfully so. This is so, and it always happens this way. In the name of inclusivity, in the name of diversity, in the name of, it's never really totally inclusive, because to get their super rights, they always trample on the rights of somebody else. And again, this affects mothers, way more than us dads. It just does. I mean, they can call us non-gestating parent. That's insulting on its own, but we can be like whatever. But think about the difference here if you're a parent. The difference between mothers and fathers. The mothers go through this. Their bodies change. They actually give life to this little person. They're incredible what they do. To take that away and to dehumanize them by calling them a gestating parent, it's the most awful thing in the world. So a lot of this is on moms to not put up with it, but we got to support them. I mean, honestly, this is just, you can't ever let this creep into your society wherever you live if you ever start to see it happen. You really, truly can't. Fox also had, later on last night, Tomi Lahren. She's a commentator. I haven't heard from her in a little while. She makes another good point about this, though. These kinds of things, when they make the headlines, do get across to everybody, no matter where you live, not just New York State. That's why I always say these kinds of stories affect all of us, because you got to be aware of them. Makes another good point. This is just another ball in the bucket. This is another reason why they're in states like this, they're losing people by the hundreds of thousands. She makes a good point here.
Prevents me from moving there, even though it's more convenient? I'll tell you, things like this. And I'm not alone in that. Not only is it preventing people from moving to these blue, woke, insane states, but it's actually pushing people out the door into the red states. And it might seem like small potatoes, and in the scheme and scope of everything, perhaps that it is. But when you look at this woke insanity that's impacting families, it's impacting schools, impacting women's sports, it's just another tick on the radar that keeps people out of blue states and coming on over to these great red states.
I mean, couldn't you see it? Couldn't you see this being the absolute final straw? Let's just assume for a second. I don't think it's going to. I don't. But let's say that Kathy Hochul did pass this. Let's say that the Pride Parade actually marched to Albany and they had, pitchforks and torches, and they demanded that she pass this law to replace mothers and fathers with gestating and non-gestating parents. Let's say that actually happened. Couldn't you see that as the final straw that would make somebody move? Let's say you're a business person. You have a business there. You're like, I'm getting taxed to death. This is ridiculous. There's crime all over my city. I can't handle this. I can't afford my house even more. And then let's say you're somebody, a new parent, you're about to have a baby, and then you hear this law. Then you hear that this got passed, that you're not a father or you're not a mother anymore. Couldn't you not see that as the final straw to drive people out of that state? Because let me tell you something, that absolutely would be for a lot of people. So here's another thing. And they're very aware of this now. This exodus out of these blue states and cities that are happening. You can see it. If you've ever looked up one of those U-Haul studies where all the U-Haul trucks are going to and coming from, they're not going to the blue cities. Trust me on that one. They're going to the red states and red cities and red counties. That's what's happening. And this is the kind of crap. Why? That's the exact reason why. Because you can't tolerate it. Don't ever let this happen. Okay, is it hyped up? Would you even hear about the story if it wasn't Pride Month? Maybe. Possibly. Could be. But the point stands, and they said there in the first Fox report, it's not the only state that has considered this. It's not the only city that has considered this. And not even recently, by the way. This is not a new concept to try to replace mothers and fathers. This has been going on a long, long time. You always used to hear people, and everybody got called crazy for saying it's always an attack on the family. And why is it always an attack on specifically women? Oh, that's just ridiculous. You'd get mocked by saying that. That's not true. That's not. Oh, really? Look at cases like this. Why specifically did they take out of the language mothers and fathers? It weakens that family. Because for whatever reason, whatever it is, whoever is behind pushing things like this, that got this bill passed in New York State, they don't like traditional values the way that everybody else does. Most people don't care what you do in your lifestyle. Don't care about it. But something like this, like replacing mothers and fathers, like actually, technically this would be outlawing that term in that state if it ever passed. Technically doing that, yeah, that's an attack on you personally. That's dehumanizing you. Don't ever let them do it. And the best way to do that is to mock the you-know-what out of it by starting that. And I'm telling you, if you ever see that on paperwork anywhere and they try to call you something other than a mother and father if you have to fill out a form, nope. Replace that right away. Refuse to. Can't tolerate that. I don't know. We'll see what happens with it. Who knows? More importantly, this is a quick one today because we need to get into the weekend. More importantly, it is the weekend. Make it a great, wicked, awesome Friday. Enjoy. Been a lot of heavy news this week. I know. I get that, but don't let it affect you. Don't let them think that this stuff is taking over because it's not. Common sense reigns. Don't ever put up with what you don't want to put up with. But thanks for finding me on the live stream Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on X and YouTube and on Facebook, and then the replay. But audio podcast listeners, a shout out to you again because once in a while I'll look at the numbers and it keeps on growing on audio. It kind of surprised me, too. I just do this thing on video live because I'm better live. I'm just used to it. And then I take the audio version of this and post it there, usually just around 9 a.m. Eastern Time when the live stream is done. And post it on your favorite audio podcast. So thanks for finding me. I really appreciate you for doing that. And you OG followers, too. Appreciate you. Make it a wicked awesome weekend. Be safe. Enjoy. And don't ever let anybody call you a gestating parent. Talk to you later.